Viruses are microscopic parasites deadlier than other microorganisms. Viruses have great survival skills in the host's body. People have been battling viruses because of its contagious nature. Viruses have become a widely spread problem not only for medical staff and health organizations but for every individual. There are some viruses whose vaccines have been developed but many are either undiscovered and researched properly. Viruses are deadly but some of them throw a great impact on humanity. There are many deadly viruses but some of them are deadlier. Some of these deadlier viruses are Marburg virus, Ebola virus, rabies, HIV, smallpox, hantavirus, influenza, dengue, rotavirus, SARS-CoV, SARS-CoV-2, MERS virus. These viruses can lead to many complications of utmost death. Marburg virus was spread to the laboratory workers from the open exposure to some monkeys from Uganda, Germany. Infected people are bound to develop high fever and bleeding from organs leading to failure of an organ, shock, and eventually death. According to WHO, the first outbreak's mortality rate was lower than that spread in 1998 to 2000 and 2005 in Angola. Ebola virus originated in Sudan and Congo in 1976. The fatality rate of it is pathetic, in between 50% to 71%. It is a rare but deadly virus causing fever, body aches, diarrhea, and bleeding also. Severe complications can lead to a weakened immune system and uncontrollable bleeding. It can only be spread by contact with blood or other body fluid. Rabies is a deadly virus transmitted by an animal bite. It causes inflammation of the brain and is very certain to cause death if left untreated. Fortunately, the pre-made vaccines for pets in 1920 have made the disease very rare. HIV is one of the modern concerns because of its widespread. It is a virus that attacks cells that help body fight infections. Dr. Umesh Adalya said, HIV is still the one that is the biggest killer. Powerful antiviral drugs can make it possible to live with HIV for years, but the point of concern is its widespread. Smallpox was certified eradicated by WHO in 1980, but before that, it had been a huge burden on the planet. The survival ratio of individuals having smallpox was really low. Smallpox was a contagious, disfiguring, and deadly disease. Hantavirus is a family of viruses that are spread by rodents and can cause different kinds of syndromes. The virus is not transmitted from one person to another, rather, people contract the disease from exposure to the droppings of infected mice. Influenza, is known as Spanish flu, began in 1918 and sickened around 40% of the world's population. Around 50 million people died due to this virus. Dengue virus originated in Philippines and Thailand in the 1950s. Dengue sickens around 80 to 100 million people a year. The mortality rate of dengue fever is around 2.5% but can lead to hemorrhagic fever and an increased mortality rate of up to 20%. Rotavirus is the most common and contagious cause of diarrhea in infants and children. There are different strains of rotavirus, and multiple infections by different strains may occur. The symptoms and signs include fever, vomiting, and watery diarrhea. Severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS, CoV had an epidemic that affected 26 countries and resulted in many cases in 2003. It is transmitted from person to person and the symptoms are influenza-like. Initially dry cough, shortness of breath, and fever can occur but no symptom is specific. SARS-CoV-2 is also known as the coronavirus, which is usually widespread, lethal and can lead to deaths. Transmission usually occurs primarily via droplets from cough and sneeze within a range of about 6 feet. There are no specific symptoms to this deadly coronavirus, but the most common ones are fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath if severe. Viruses are one of the most lethal when it comes to deaths. If vaccines are not invented, they can lead to the loss of precious human lives. It is mandatory to be aware of the fact that the viruses are contagious and can easily survive in the host's body to damage it. It is therefore advised to be a significant part in assisting to limit and eradicate the spread of this present COVID-19 pandemic by observing physical distancing and avoiding gatherings.